Giants Causeway on the coast of Northern Ireland is one of the UK's outstanding natural features. Its steep cliffs and deep bays form a UNESCO World Heritage Site.
Giant stones along the Irish coast are finally moving, and what is hiding behind them is absolutely terrifying. For 60 million years, the Giants Causeway has been called a natural wonder made of 40,000 stone columns. Everyone thought it was just old volcanic rock until a massive door slid open on its own last week.
Oh, well, this is exciting. Earlier today, we're being told tourists and National Trust rangers saw the legendary fin disappear into a magical doorway within the rock face here at the Giants Causeway.
This is a key detail because a drone caught the entire event on camera. We are talking about a hand-carved vault hidden inside solid basalt. Get this, the scans show things living inside that should not exist. You will not believe what happens next. Impossible door found. The Giants Causeway on the coast of Northern Ireland is one of the most famous natural features in the entire world. It is a place of steep cliffs and deep bays that form a beautiful heritage site. For a very long time, tourists have traveled from all over to see the 40,000 interlocking columns. These rocks look like a giant beehive made of stone, and they are perfectly shaped. Scientists used to say this was all because of a massive volcanic eruption that happened 60 million years ago. They explained that lava filled a valley until it was over 300 feet deep. The heat reached over 2,000 degrees Fahrenheit, and as it cooled, it formed these strange shapes. But here is the catch. A recent event has revealed that this place might actually be an ancient high-tech vault. We are being told that tourists and park rangers saw a legendary door disappear into the rock face. A massive stone door was caught on camera moving on its own. This happened near the edge of the cliffs where the waves hit the black basalt. The man who recorded this is Marcus Whelan, a 34-year-old electrician from Dublin. He was just looking for some nice sunset shots with his drone when he saw something impossible. He watched a massive slab of basalt shift outward from the cliff side. Behind the moving stone, there was nothing but total darkness. Marcus stayed very still as his drone filmed the door staying open for exactly 11 seconds. Then the stone moved back and sealed itself so perfectly that you could not even see a crack in the rock anymore. It looked like the cliff had never been touched. Marcus uploaded the video to a forum, and within hours, experts were calling him. They could not believe their eyes because no geological survey had ever found a hollow space inside those rocks. There are still many rumors in the air, but what many can confirm is that this footage changed everything we know about the coast. The government was notified quickly, but Marcus had already shared the news with people who wanted the truth. It is not that simple though, because the rock is supposedly solid all the way through. Geologists have spent 15 years studying this site, and they never saw a single sign of a hidden room. Everything changed when they saw what was waiting behind the stone door in the dark. Giant sonar discovery. After the video went viral, a top scientist named Dr. Cara Brennan headed to the site immediately. She has studied the causeway for 15 years, and she knew that basalt does not just move on its own. She grabbed her ground-penetrating radar and started scanning the area where Marcus saw the door. What she found made her sit down on the cold stones and stare at her screen in total silence for nearly 2 minutes. The radar showed a massive hollow room 12 feet deep and 26 feet wide. This room was hidden 39 feet behind the face of the cliff, but the most unsettling part was what stood inside that room. The sonar detected 7 upright figures that were between 7 and 8 feet tall. This is way bigger than any human that ever lived in Ireland in the old days. These figures were standing exactly 4.5 feet apart in a perfect line facing the door. It looked like a military formation waiting for a command. Basalt rock does not just form around standing objects unless those objects were already there when the lava was liquid. This means those figures have been inside that room for at least 60 million years. That is long before humans even walked the earth. The discovery was so shocking that it triggered a huge reaction from other experts. Dr. Ian Walsh arrived the next day with even better equipment to scan the chamber. His face was calm when he started, but 20 minutes later his hands were shaking so hard he had to put his tablet down. The scan showed that the figures were not solid stone. They were hollow shells with thin outer layers. It looked like something had once lived inside them, or maybe something was still in there waiting. And that is putting it lightly, because the data suggested the shells were made of a material that should not have survived the heat of a volcanic eruption. Yeah, about that, the government agencies were notified within 48 hours. A team from the Environment Agency arrived and released a statement saying the drone footage was just a trick of the light. They insisted there was no hidden room and told everyone to move along. But they did not mention that their lead consultant, Dr. Naomi Gallagher, refused to sign that report. Witnesses say she looked at the sonar data, turned white as a sheet, and quit her job the very next week. The mystery grew even more terrifying when one of the giants suddenly vanished from the room. Vanishing figure mystery. Before the scientists were kicked out, Dr. Brennan managed to get back to the site for one last scan 4 days later. She wanted to compare the new data with her first results to see if anything had changed. She expected everything to be exactly the same because the door had stayed shut. Marcus had a motion-activated camera pointed at the rock the entire time, and it showed zero movement on the outside. But when the image appeared on her screen, she realized she was wrong. One of the figures was missing. Get this, the stone door had not opened a single time since the first event. Yet inside that sealed tomb, one of the 7-foot-tall beings had simply vanished. There was no dust and no sign of where it went. It was as if it had walked through the solid basalt walls. This made everyone wonder how something could move through stone without leaving a trace. The mystery only got deeper when Dr. Eilis Moran arrived from Cork to run thermal imaging tests. She wanted to see if there was any heat behind the rocks. It was a freezing morning in March and the air was only 39 degrees Fahrenheit. The rocks on the outside were just as cold, which made sense for the weather. But when she pointed her camera at the hidden chamber, the screen lit up with bright orange and red signatures. Inside the sealed room, the 6 remaining figures were glowing with a temperature of 99 degrees Fahrenheit. That is almost exactly the internal body temperature of a healthy human being. There is no way for a rock to stay that warm for 60 million years. Dr. Moran actually asked the other scientists if they were pulling a prank on her because the reading was so perfect it looked fake. When she realized they were serious, she packed her bags and refused to answer her emails for 3 weeks. So here is the deal. The team also installed vibration sensors to listen to the rock. They picked up a rhythmic pulse coming from behind the wall that repeated every 4.7 seconds. Dr. Walsh admitted it sounded exactly like a slow and steady heartbeat. The thermal signatures were not steady either. They would spike up to over 100 degrees Fahrenheit for no reason and then drop back down. It seemed to be coming from whatever was inside those hollow shells. Every 72 hours, the team would run a new scan, and they saw that the 6 remaining figures were changing their positions. They were shifting a few inches at a time and moving steadily toward the door. The giants are slowly waking up and preparing to step out into our world very soon. Hidden coastal threat. Every year, more than 1 million people flock to Northern Ireland to walk across the hexagonal basalt columns of the Giants Causeway. They come for the photos, the fresh Atlantic air, and the charming local legends about a giant named Finn McCool building a bridge to Scotland to pick a fight with a rival. For most of these tourists, it's just another beautiful stop on a bucket list trip, a place to stand on 60-million-year-old rocks and feel small against the backdrop of the ocean. They have absolutely no idea that they are standing directly on top of a secret that would straight up break the world if it ever went public. Just 39 feet behind the vertical face of the cliff, tucked away in the pitch-black interior of the rock, there are 6 massive entities that shouldn't exist. These aren't fossils, and they aren't some weird geological fluke. They are alive, and they are pumping out body heat into the freezing stone at a rate that is physically impossible according to every science book we've ever written. The government has been pulling out all the stops to make sure the public stays in the dark about what's actually happening inside those cliffs. If you go there today, you'll see heavy-duty barriers and bright yellow warning signs everywhere, especially near the most sensitive zones. If you pull a park ranger aside and ask why so much of the site is restricted, they'll give you the standard corporate line about unstable terrain and falling rocks. They want you to think it's just a boring, routine safety issue, so you'll stop asking questions and move on to the gift shop. But the real reason for the sudden lockdown isn't geological, it's reactive. The entire area was clamped down tight only after a local guy named Marcus managed to slip past the perimeter and find something he wasn't supposed to see. Since his discovery, the site hasn't been a nature preserve. It's been a containment zone. When the news first started leaking within the scientific community, Dr. Brennan, a specialist who has spent her career looking at unconventional formations, tried to do things the right way. She put together a massive report for the official Geological Board because she genuinely believed the public had a right to know that the Earth's crust was housing massive biological anomalies. She had the data, the thermal readings, and the proof, but the board didn't even give her a chance. They rejected her paper almost instantly, telling her that her equipment must have been glitching or that her math was just wrong. It was a total stonewall. Later that week, a friend who works on the board called her from a burner phone to give her the real story. He told her that no one at the top is willing to deal with the absolute chaos this discovery would trigger. If the word got out that there are biological heat signatures trapped inside rock that's been solid since the Eocene epoch, it would invalidate everything we think we know about biology and history. The sensors were quietly hauled away in April, and every scientist involved was told to keep their mouths shut or face a total career-ending blackballing. But here's the thing about a cover-up this big. It's almost impossible to erase every single trace of the truth. Even though the government tried to scrub the evidence, they missed a few things. Marcus wasn't just exploring, he was recording. He still has high-res drone footage stored on 3 separate hard drives hidden away in his house, and a few of the researchers managed to save secret copies of the sonar data before the feds wiped the servers. That sonar data is actually the most terrifying part of this whole situation. The last time the team was able to get a clear read, they noticed that the 6th figure had actually moved. It's now sitting only a few feet away from the entrance of the internal vault, and its pulse is getting stronger by the day. We aren't just looking at dormant statues, we are looking at something that is actively waking up. The mystery of the 7th figure is what really keeps these researchers up at night. When they first ran the scans of the internal chamber, the structural geometry was perfect. It was clearly built to house 7 massive entities. There were 7 distinct bays, 7 sets of thermal vents, and 7 structural supports. But when they looked closer, they only counted 6 figures inside the vault. One of the bays was completely empty. This means that at some point one of these things got out. It could be anywhere right now. It might be lurking in the deep freezing trenches of the North Channel, or it could be hidden in one of the thousands of sea caves that dot the Irish coast. Just the thought that one of these massive ancient beings is already out there, walking or swimming in the dark while we're busy living our lives, is enough to give anyone the chills. Is it possible that an ancient civilization is waking up to reclaim the Earth right now? Like and subscribe to stay updated as we follow this terrifying mystery unfolding in Ireland.